Hello, I am Arthur Semijo, and I am here with Keith Andrew. It's a great pleasure to be in this interview with him and also to make friends with him. He is a great guy. So I recommend you all to check out his work and keep your eyes on him.
Also known as 1162. I'm here with a good friend from Brazil. As of right now, I'm talking to you live from America, and you are based in China. So the first question I want to talk to you about is tell our audience a little bit about yourself for icebreakers and what made you want to go to China.
Well, the history of coming to China is a little bit complex because it's a lot of things make me come here to China. But I am a concert pianist, and I have been working as a concert pianist all my life. And during the pandemic was a moment that everyone was, as you know, forced to stop, stay at home, and those things. And when it was during this process, I was working with woodworking, doing some building guitars. That is another work that I do. And one company from China that already know my work for a long time, they saw that I was not playing the piano those days, especially when the pandemic was finishing. They say, "Oh, why you don't come here to China and work with us?" Because they make some kind of, let's say, tools that you use for develop your fingers to make your fingers faster and stronger. And they wanted to relate my work with their work. Yeah? So this bring me to China in a first moment, but I had no special impression concerning how I would be living in China or being in China because we listened to many different opinions about the country. And when I arrived here, I fall in love by the country. And nowadays, I even don't see myself interested in living in another country. If I travel nowadays for making my work as concert pianist or any other work, I always think about coming back to China and keep it here. This is my life plan for the moment.
Next question I want to talk to you about is what attracted you to begin your career as a music composer?
hmm when I was very young, like not very young, but I was like 13 years old, I was too much interested in have a rock band. I have long hairs and I want to change the world with rock and roll, like any boy, I think. And in a first moment, I think I want to learn to play guitar. This was my first thing. And but in that moment, buying a guitar in the city I was living was almost the price of a car because it was far from the center of the country and the main cities. So it was out of possibilities for my family. So I say to my grandfather, "How about if we build one guitar ourselves? Help me to build an electric guitar." And he said, "But I don't know how to build." And I say, "I also don't know, but let's try." And we tried, and it worked for a while. But after some time, because of some wrong concepts that I had, there was some problems that I never knew how to solve in that moment. And the guitar become like a bow and arrow, like something that you cannot use anymore. Then I started to play with my classmates. I started to teach my classmates how to play instruments. They got some instruments. Later on, I got a better instrument myself, and I started this rock band. At some point, I think, well, I'm missing someone to play keyboards in the band, and I think if I learn piano, maybe I can teach someone. And that's the turning point of the thing. Because then I discovered the piano music, not just the standard that we listen in the main medias, but I start to discover Johann Sebastian Bach, Mozart, Beethoven, Liszt, Chopin, and I start to love that thing. And I noticed that I was learning fast too. So once I was not seeing these, and the band also was not practicing too much. The guys were too lazy, because when we used to play in some small shows, they was more interested in attracting the girls than playing the music. I also wanted to attract the girls, but I wanted to play the music very well too. So I completely changed my life and say, okay, now I'm going to piano, and decided to be a pianist. And about composing, when I started to read about the great composers of the past, like Beethoven, Mozart, they always used to play instruments and compose. And I was playing piano. I think, well, if I like these guys and I want to do the work they do, I need to try also to study composition. So I started to study composition, harmony, counterpoint, orchestration, all those things by myself. Try to get books, try to find ways of study those things, listen, and over the next years I start to try to make my own compositions. The beginning, of course, as everyone, not a fantastic composition, nothing really worth saying, oh, this is a great music, but I started my own way, and at some point I understood how to do that. And then came the moment of university. I went to music university, and after this, because of many reasons, I get out from, and I start to make my career by getting the right contacts, speaking with this, speaking with that, and went to Europe many times. And then my career was basically always focused on that. And so I was all the time a pianist and composer. And differently from many of my mates, let's say from many pianists all around the world, the point is that I never understood how to do without being a composer. And nowadays, most part of pianists are only pianists, and composers are only composers. I all the time was composer and pianist. So I even don't understand how to get out of this, because this is like my own air. My air is being a composer, being the pianist, and also, of course, doing the luthier projects, making the guitars, these things.
Now, you also mentioned you wrote a couple of CDs and you also wrote a book. What's the
Yeah,
title of your book and what are your CDs called?
sure. Yeah, I have a the CDs. I have recorded 15 CDs, published actually, but I have a little bit more recording than this. I have like a 20 something, 23, 24, I think. That, we published already 15 CDs, and these CDs are mostly works of great composers from the past that they don't have too much space. Like, for example, when you speak about classical music, we have Mozart, we have Beethoven, we have Bach, we have Tchaikovsky, Chopin, but there are some names that are so important like them, but we don't listen too much about, or we never heard about sometimes. Piazzazziki, Tiva d'Arzanto, Theodore Dubois, all these guys were never recorded in full, so no one know all the output, all the music that they have made. And I started to research about these guys. Every time I was in Europe, instead of taking a picture in front of the Eiffel Tower, I decided to go to the library and research. So I was this kind of nerd, let's say. And I get, because of this, I get many very rare scores to find, musical scores. And I make the first recording of some of them. And so this is why I made many CDs. And I also make 2 CDs with my own compositions. The first one that was in Australia in 2011, and then another one in 2016. And concerning the book is a different story, because I was playing piano. I was playing a standard Beethoven sonata. And at some point, I was reading the music and playing, and at some point I noticed something is wrong. What I'm reading and what I'm playing is a little bit different, actually. I'm playing like I listen all the pianists playing, but what is right in there is not exactly what I'm playing. And then I start to pay attention on that, and I noticed that we have some wrong traditions on the piano playing, in the classical piano playing, that is supposed to be where the people are more accurate about reading, right? So when I notice that, I start to pay attention every single score I put in my hands on, every single note. I say, hmm, what happened here? Is it really how we are supposed to play? And I noticed that we we have some listening tradition that in the classical music that affects the playing and make you go in some wrong directions. Even, for example, playing a melody that is originally supposed to be for one hand, and you end up playing the melody that is in the other hand as the main melody. So it's a huge mistake when it comes to playing classical music. And I wrote this book. This book, the name is strange, long, but is a scientific system of interpretation or musical hermeneutics, because that means how to understand the music by reading and getting the information, how to say, through the lines, or getting the information that is how to say, that is inside it. You need to have already a lot of theoric background to understand what that composer wanted you to do. When you are just a pianist, and this is the main problem, when you are just a pianist, you just play the piano and read the scores, you are lacking a very important information, that is how a composition is made. And when you understand how a composition is made, you understand why that piece that is in front of you is made in that way. And then it's easier for you to follow the direction that the composer wants. But the problem is this: most of part of the great pianists nowadays, they are just pianists. They never studied composition seriously. They understand a little bit, they understand a little bit about form, but they don't have um, you know, that experience of saying, oh, here is the melody, this is developed in this way in the second movement, blah, 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 blah. And this kind of thing is what I discuss in this book. And it's curious because I made this book, and when I start to show to some people, there was two kinds of reactions. The first, some people like, how can this be possible? And the other was the people say, no, 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 but we don't play like this, we play like that, you know. So there was this mixed feelings. But the fun thing, the nice thing is that at some point, someone sent one of my books, printed book, to Russia, and the one teacher there, Alexei Larin, he wrote to me after that and invited me to go there and explain about this book, and it was quite fun because I went to make a kind of master class, and when I arrived there was all the teachers, and one of the teachers was like the pretending student, let's say, to which I would listen to and make the corrections according to my book. Then when he finished playing, that the teacher that invited me come in my direction very seriously said, so you are telling us that we are teaching wrong for more than 100 years? And I was thinking, okay, now is the moment that he's going to beat me, you know. And but I said, yes, that's what I'm saying. And he say, bravo, bravo. So from tomorrow we start to take our students. So I after this I start to make, like, say, the cleaning of the technique of those students, and I have been there 4 times in 4 consecutive years. So it's 4 years, not 4 times. It was a little bit more because I went twice here, I think. So in total was for 4 years, and then 1 year before the pandemic was there was a changing on the government politics, something like this. So they could not make the invitation. So I didn't went, and then pandemic, of course, everything changed.
Well,
But
let me
so
ask you
this is
this, and not to
ah
interrupt, but I do want to talk to you about another subject real fast.
yeah, yeah.
For our audience, you mentioned in the beginning and towards the middle, but you build these guitars by hand. Can you
Mm-mm.
show us the ones that you have a couple behind you? Could you show us a
Mm.
couple?
I can show, but these are not the ones I made. I can show, if you want the ones I made, I can show pictures maybe from my iPad, or I can show these ones just to explain what is about the guitar, because I have the on internet. I can show you here pictures of the ones that I made, because they are all in Brazil. When you travel from Brazil to China,
Right.
it's quite difficult to bring too many instruments, because I have more than 40 instruments in Brazil. So it's quite a lot. It's like moving a house just of instruments. So it's
So, for an
yeah, but
example, what is the difference between the yellow one and the black one behind you?
sure. Let's go in this direction so I can show you. For example, here we have one model that is called Les Paul. It's one of the oldest styles of electric solid guitar. And this one especially, I put this tremolo bar, so it's a little bit different. Normally don't have this tremolo bar, but this is what we call Les Paul guitar. Yeah? And this is when we say the difference of guitars is that we have the solid guitar. This is a solid one. That means when you build it, it's a solid block of wood, and you make some carving here to put this pickup. You make the space for these and for the lines, but it's a solid piece of wood. So when you play, the sound is not heavy, not heavy. No, it's not a big sound because there is no acoustic part. Yeah? So it's not like a piano or like a acoustic guitar. So we are going to see also how is acoustic guitar, but electric guitar, when it's solid body, is like that. So a solid piece of wood. The other kind that we can mention that is the um, semi-hollow body. That is like saying semi-solid. Let's say this is a Rickenbacker style guitar, and we have this inside. As you can see here, there is a hole, so I can put my fingers inside. But the middle part here is solid. So you have empty part inside here and empty part inside here. The sound is a little bit bigger, and this difference is mostly because of how you are going to deal with the sound when you go to amplifiers. If you put a completely acoustic instrument in an amplifier, in an amp, you are going to have a lot of feedback. You're going to have that sound that happens, and that's quite annoying, especially if you try to use distortions. So the solid instrument don't give you this. You can put very high volume, and still you can listen without the great feedback. This one might have a little bit of feedback sometimes, depending on what you do, but works much better already. And it's a fantastic instrument too. And of course, other things that change is the way you are going to feel it here. But this is a really long speech. And then we have the acoustic. The acoustic one is this one here. Let me just be sure that nothing is going to fall. Yeah. This is an acoustic instrument. The body is completely hollow. So here, as you can see, I can put fingers inside. So it's a completely hollow instrument. So the sound is pretty big. And this is also can use electrically. So that means you can plug on an amplifier. And this one is the one that if you want to use distortions, that sounds like a wow, 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 wow.
All right, so my
Maybe.
last question for you is, as we came back from the commercial break, when I first approached you to be a guest on my talk show, how do you feel now, and would you recommend it to other people?
First of all, it was a fantastic thing when we start to speak, because I feel a big connection with you from the first moment. So this, when you make the invitation for the interview, I already get very happy, because I say, wow, fantastic. We already have this kind of connection. You are someone that is always enjoyable to talk with, and you make the invitation. Okay, so fantastic. And then now that we have been here speaking, and I speaking about my work, I really feel that I must always say to everyone that it's a real pleasure to be interviewed by you, because what is the real work of the interview. The interviewer is that, the is to listen the story of the, understand the story of the other person, and get the points where you make the connection, you know, the let's say the net of informations about that person, and you do this brilliantly. So I just can say that of course I recommend, I support, and I'm a great fan of yours now also now, because you know it's pretty recently that I have seen your work. So I'm really happy to be let's say part of this family now. Let's call.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I do have a couple questions for you off the air, but wrapping up, our goal is to reach over 500 views. This will be shared on all social medias, and it is a Halloween theme. I want to say thank you for being here. Happy holidays, happy Halloween, and until we meet again, I catch you later. Thank you,
See,
and you have
thank
a good
you.
night.